I can honestly say I never thought I would actually be sitting here to film this video. Well, here goes nothing. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Ariel. I am a kidney patient. I am currently active on the wait list. I am looking for a kidney donor and I'm just living my life like a regular girl, like anybody else would. If you read the title to this video, this is my story on how I was diagnosed with kidney failure. If you'd like to continue to see my story, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to my channel. But without further ado, let's get into today's video. So in order to get into my story and to really get into where I am today, we have to go back all the way to 2015 when I was 19 years old, when the first ever knowledge or mention of my kidney function was ever brought to my attention. So back when I was 19, I started my transition. For those of you who don't know, I'm a trans woman. I transitioned from male to female when I was 19 years old. And when I was 19 is the first time I ever saw a doctor to begin my hormone replacement therapy journey. At that time, I had my first labs done, and the first ever results that I got back indicated that my creatinine was slightly higher than normal. This led my doctor to have me do a number of tests just to test my kidney function, because they really didn't understand why my creatinine was elevated the way that it was. It wasn't anything that was too extreme, that was too alarming, but they were concerned because one of the pills that you take as a trans woman when you're starting off your hormone replacement journey is a diuretic that can, of course, aggravate the kidneys or cause them to work a little bit more than they normally would necessarily. So this led to me doing several tests, including a ultrasound of my kidneys, amongst other labs that I normally wouldn't have had if I didn't have elevated creatinine levels. So for the next foreseeable years, I was seeing my nephrologist. I was keeping my appointments, but there was no determination for what was going on. He was just looking at my levels, and he did preemptively put me on phosphorus binders and sodium bicarbonate, but there was no negative effects for me at this time. So I wasn't really adhering to his advice of taking these medications, not because I didn't trust his medical opinion, but because, one, I didn't really have meals at this time. I would just eat whenever I had the time, like little things here and there, because I was very active in the service industry. I was a restaurant manager in hotels for a big portion of my adult life prior to being diagnosed with kidney failure. So I didn't really normally eat meals and such to follow the guidelines of taking those pills as directed. And maybe looking back at it now, I should have, because maybe I wouldn't be where I am today, but that's beside the point. Let's not jump to conclusions just yet. Unfortunately, because we were just playing this game of like monitoring where my levels are at and not having an actual diagnosis or prognosis, I stopped going to my nephrologist several times and did not see him again until I ended up on dialysis. So this brings us to February of 2023, almost 2 years ago. I had just gotten off of work. I was going from my apartment to my parents' house because I had an appointment that was closer to where they live than where I lived at the time. So I decided prior to this day to spend the night at my parents' house. So I noticed when I got off work and I got to my apartment to get my bags that my feet and my legs were extremely swollen. I didn't know what caused it or why it was happening, and I didn't feel anything abnormal. So I just went about as normal and drove myself to my parents' house. And it wasn't until I got to my parents' house, changed into my pajamas and got ready for bed that I realized that my legs and feet were so swollen that I was in actual agonizing pain. You're probably thinking that this is probably when I finally came to my senses and decided to go to the ER, but no, it's not. Keep in mind, by this time that I'm experiencing this pain and seeing the swelling, it's 1:30 in the morning. So I'm not gonna wake up my parents to have them take me to the ER. Instead, what I did was I literally slept it off. I decided to just go to sleep and hopefully it would be better in the morning. I was dead wrong. That morning I woke up and I was in less pain and my swelling had gone down. However, it hadn't gone down too much. So when I was getting ready in the morning, I was sitting on the floor trying to do my makeup. I couldn't even sit properly on the floor because putting my body weight on my feet just caused agonizing, excruciating pain, because not only was it my weight, but it was also the weight of the fluid that I had on my legs and on my feet building up, crushing my feet essentially. I still didn't go to the ER after this. I went to my appointment and it wasn't even like a doctor's appointment. I went to go get my hair done. I wish I hadn't had done that, but it is what I did. I went to go get my hair done. I got my hair done. I did not go to the hospital until 10 o'clock at night that day. By the time that I had gotten to the hospital, not only had my swelling gotten so incredibly uncomfortable that I was in physical pain and was having trouble breathing normally, but my blood pressure had gotten so high to the point that they got me back to the room to see a doctor so fast that I got kind of dizzy, realistically speaking, because they were worried that I was gonna slip into a coma because my blood pressure had gotten that high. So obviously with my vitals being where they were, I was admitted to the hospital within that same night. Unfortunately, I wasn't transferred up to a room until probably about 3-4 o'clock in the morning. By the time that I was transferred up to the room, they were getting me my breakfast order so I could have breakfast. When I basically checked into my hospital room, it was really weird, and I have to be completely honest, I didn't sleep that night, so some of those memories are a little fuzzy, but I did not leave that hospital until about a week after I got there. That is how much I had let my body essentially deteriorate because I didn't understand that my kidneys had failed and I was in a dire situation. After I had breakfast that day, I was essentially immediately put on a NPO plan, which means nothing past the mouth, nothing to be fed or drinking orally, because I was gonna be taken in to emergency surgery, put a emergency tunnel catheter. So I have the scar still from that right here on my neck. That's from my tunneled catheter. I had that for about 3 days before they removed it and put the CVC or chest catheter in my chest. These catheters were placed in my body so I could be given emergency dialysis because my kidneys had failed and my body was just not able to get rid of the excess waste and the excess fluid that was accumulating within. So the dialysis was to essentially get me back to a level where I was functioning and not going to crash from my own doing, essentially. I will say that at this time, I was still urinating a lot. Like I was still giving out and producing a very healthy amount of urine. So it was really surprising to have less and less urine be produced by my own body as I went on. Granted, I do hear that a lot of that is due to hemodialysis and the body going through some sort of shock through hemo, which leads to less urine production. I don't know if that's true. All I know is my experience and that I was producing a healthy amount of urine when I arrived to the hospital and a few days after I left. But a few months after that is when I did start to produce less urine. I will say that I'm very grateful and very humbled to receive the treatment that I did receive when I was in the hospital. But the one thing that I am still slightly upset about is that no one told me when I was there that this was going to be a treatment that I was going to need for the rest of my life until I had a kidney transplant. No one sat down with me during this whole experience and said, hey, just so you know, this dialysis is not only going to be while you're here in the hospital, you're going to be receiving some form of dialysis until you receive a kidney transplant. No one did that. So obviously I figured it out once I left the hospital and had my first few rounds of hemodialysis and realized that on the days that I wasn't getting it, I was feeling like shit. But I wish there was more communication and a little bit more compassion from the doctors. A lot of them were just confused as to why I was there because I was so young. I was in my mid-20s and had failing kidneys. I wish there was more education. I get it. You're shocked. You're seeing this young woman here. You want to know why, what caused it, but you're not giving me the proper tools to be successful once I leave. You're essentially just telling me, all right, here's your chair time for your dialysis center. They're going to go with you on what your next steps are. And that's what it was. That's all it was. After my hospital stay, I did hemodialysis for about 1 whole year before I transitioned into PD dialysis. That's what I do now. I do PD all the way. I will never go back to hemo unless I absolutely have to. I have an AV fistula and everything. It's not for me and I don't recommend it. If that's what works best for you, I'm happy to hear that. But for me, it just was not the best. It was a lot more cumbersome and caused me a lot more complications than actual benefits. With all that being said, I'm in a lot of a better place now than I was in February of 2023. I am currently active on the transplant waitlist at UC San Diego. If you or anyone you know would like any information on how to become a living donor and is interested in possibly donating a kidney to me or to anybody else who is on the wait list, please read down into the links below. I will be linking a few websites that can give people information on how to become a living donor and what those benefits are to the recipient. I think I'm gonna end this video here. That is, for the most part, my story and how I ended up as a dialysis patient and where I currently am in my journey. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Please follow along for more. I will be bringing you more kidney related content and a little bit of beauty as well. Until the next one, I'll see you guys soon. Bye.